Yes.
Okay, cool. And then, all right. Give me 1 second. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in for this segment. My segment is navigating your financial GPS. And I just want to thank Anna Marie for putting this Entrepinay Summit together. And I know it's the last day, and I'm super bummed. I've been watching it all weekend, and it's just been such a beacon of light, especially with all like the events that are going on. So yeah, I'm just really excited to be here. I'm gonna go ahead and do a quick introduction about myself. So my name is Giselle Victorio. I'm a first generation Filipino American here, born and raised in LA. I was fortunate enough to be raised by my grandma while my parents were at work. So I speak Tagalog frequently or fluently, sorry, Tagalog fluently. Fun fact is I actually learned Tagalog before I learned English. So when I was in kindergarten preschool, I kind of had like a weird transition. So yeah, so my parents, their background is in the medical field. For so long, they were trying to push me to do what they were doing in the medical field, and I kind of fought with that. And for a really long time, I was struggling with, am I going to med school or am I going to pursue what I was passionate about? But after like a couple years, I realized it wasn't for me. And so my background is in marketing. I worked in the marketing field for about 4 years until I met my fiancé, Jordan Mangaliman, which is our CEO and another co-founder of our company, GoldLine Financial. And so his passion was finance. And so when we were starting up the company together, we realized my background in marketing and his background in finance were the perfect match. And so when we started this our company, that's when my whole financial outlook changed. And I'm just so excited to be sharing with you guys what I believe is so pivotal to all of our financial lives. And so I remember when I was at my first job, I was filling out my benefits at work, and there was just so much information on there, like what your 401k contributions are, like tax withholding. And I looked at the paper clueless, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, you know, when we're getting our first job and signing up for all these benefits. And I didn't understand it. And like, why was I making X amount of dollars and they were taking basically half my paycheck? And so it wasn't until when I started this company when I realized what those tax withholdings meant and what finance really is. And that's when I realized like we are so financially illiterate, because when we went to school, there was no like finance, like 101 class, whether you were in high school or in college. So yeah, so I am a licensed financial professional in California, and we have a team about over 150 people, and we've helped thousands of families build their financial foundation on their road to their financial independence. And I've spoken at General Assembly. We've had a couple events there in the LA County and the Santa Monica location. And so we've spoken in front of a lot of small business owners, entrepreneurs, engineers, musicians. We had that event recently, and then we've been invited out to the LAUSD school district at a couple schools out there to just speak to their teachers about their retirement and to their parents about college funding. And we've gone to like nursing homes to talk to nurses and doctors as well. So real quick, I'm gonna go ahead and, my thing's not working. I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of give like a brief overview of what we're covering today. So there's going to be kind of like 7 topics. And I know if I'm going too fast, just let me know in the chat box. I'll go ahead and answer like the questions at the end. So yeah. All right. Hopefully you guys have like your pen and paper ready, because it's just going to be a lot of information thrown at you guys. And I just want to provide as much value as I can in the hour that I have. Yeah, so let's go ahead and continue. So we're going to go ahead and talk about budgeting and saving. We're going to be talking about debt elimination, income protection. I'll briefly go over investing and real estate, and then tax strategy, entity formation, and generational wealth. Okay. All right. So financial literacy, your financial GPS starts with financial education. That's what I'm here today to talk about. And just understanding the building blocks of your systematic wealth building. And once you understand your core financial concept, you can set your GPS and hit the road. Okay, so the American reality is that out of 100 people who retire at age 65, there's going to be 1 wealthy, 4 well-off, 3 at work, that's still currently working, and 63 that are poor that didn't properly plan enough for their retirement, and 29 expire, meaning that they passed away and that they didn't even get to reach their retirement age. So, excuse me. So a lot of us have heard our whole lives to, marry someone rich or get into the medical field, become a doctor, a dentist, or a nurse, and that would solve like our financial problems. But for me and for some people, that's just not the case. And what I love about Entrepinay is that we're just such a strong group of women that are betting on ourselves and just breaking that mold of like that Filipino mentality of just like, hey, be a nurse, that's how you're going to be successful, and just erasing that stigma of the medical field being the only way to be successful and financially free. And I think we've just come to realize that that just isn't true. And while it's still a great path, it's just not for everyone, right? And so like after we've launched our businesses, we have everything flowing. So how do we handle our money and take care of it and grow it intentionally, right? So there are two types of people in this world: those who seek security and those who seek freedom. So I think it's safe to say for all of us here in search of freedom and entrepreneurs that we just need to be financially literate about what other options are there to be saving, financial vehicles that are best for us for investing. All right, so the first topic, budgeting and saving. There's a quote that we go by at our company. It says, "If you cannot save money, the seeds of greatness are not in you," by W. Clement Stone. He's a philanthropist and like successful business owner. So number one, you're gonna wanna always create a budget and just set goals for yourself. And you wouldn't run a business without a budget. So why run your life without one, right? So as a business owner, you always want to track your income and expenses for the last 3 months. And those expenses can either be fixed or variable, which I'll go what that means in the next slide. And then an emergency fund of 6 to 12 months. And so when you guys have when I say having an emergency fund of 6 to 12 months expenses in a savings account, it means that it could be used for medical bills or, like car repair, unexpected car repairs, or when you unexpectedly get laid off. And we need that emergency fund to be paying for our expenses. Like our mortgage isn't gonna stop, our phone bill, water, electricity, that's not gonna stop. And one thing an emergency fund isn't used for, it's not used for vacations, or for Christmas presents. And a lot of people mistaken that, hey, I saved X amount of money for this, I could use it for Christmas and plan my future vacation. No, that's not what it is. It's so important just to have an emergency fund, and especially with what's excuse me, with what's going on today. Like if you didn't have an emergency fund or properly prepare, it's really hard to go on with your business. And so also like you would want to have goals of like, try to get out of debt, buy a house, launch another business, or save for your wedding, a future wedding for those who aren't married yet, and retire at the age that you want to retire at. So so when I was talking about the fixed expenses, those are expenses that don't change on a month-to-month basis. So that's kind of like your foundation. We all know what we're going to pay the next month for our rent or our mortgage, our car payment, and our phone bill. And then the variable expenses means it's all of those unnecessary things for like eating out, going to bars, hanging out with your friends, or buying new clothes. And so variable expenses are things that you guys can control, like I said, on a month-to-month basis. And by reducing these expenses, you can free up income. This is the income that you can use to save and invest. And so pro tip, most people save whatever is left over at the end of this month, and this can often be a recipe for failure. The richest man in Babylon teaches to pay yourself first instead of paying yourself last. So you definitely want to avoid like lifestyle inflation. And so I'm gonna go ahead and talk about, hold on, give me one second. Budgeting tool apps that you guys can use that you guys might not be aware of. These are 3 tools that I like to use. There's Mint, Personal Finance, and Credit Score, which is Credit Karma. I love Credit Karma. Credit Karma, if you guys haven't signed up, it's free. All of these apps are actually free, where Credit Karma just kind of aggregates all of your debt, and it shows what you have and what your remaining balance is, and it shows your score. So like every month I like to go ahead and check that and to see how much my credit score has gone up and why it went up, or if it did go down, why did it go down. And I don't know if you guys realize, but like your credit score is just as good as gold, just because later on when you're trying to invest or when you're trying to buy a house, that's what they look at. Right. So there's going to be, when you guys are trying to eliminate debt, there's going to be good debt versus bad debt. So there's two ways to go about this. There is, give me 1 second. There is the avalanche method versus the snowball method. And so the good debt makes you rental money or rental property. It's like a rental property. And then the bad debt costs you money or loses money. And then the credit card debt is like leaving balances, right? And so like I said, there's an avalanche method and then there's a snowball method. And so what the avalanche method is you kind of go with the highest interest rate, you pay it down from the highest interest rate. So for example, I have $2,000, right, with 22% interest rate. I have $1,000 with 12% interest rate. And then I have $500 with 18% interest rate. So what I would do, I would go ahead and start paying off the one with the 22% with the $2,000 balance. And then I would go down to the 18% with a $500 balance. And then I would do the 12% with a $1,000 balance. So like you see, it's kind of like the avalanche method. It's going from the highest to the lowest, and you chunk down in payments with the highest interest rate. And the success rate of this isn't as high as a snowball method, just because most people don't stick to it, and it's less satisfying because you feel like you're not going anywhere, and psychologically, like you feel like you wouldn't be able to commit. Whereas to the snowball method, you focus on your lowest balance first, right? And then you move on to the next balance. And psychologically, that just makes us feel better, just because you're able to cross things off of your list. And so that's like one of the methods that is the method that I use when I was in debt, and I was able to pay off my debt a lot faster. And I don't know, like for us being in finance, when we tell our clients, like we just see it that it's so much more effective than the avalanche method. And so another thing that you guys really want to utilize that people don't know is utilizing balance transfers. And so what exactly is a balance transfer? So balance transfer is like a high yield savings account, or sorry, not a high yield savings account. It's, what's that called? Utilizing a balance transfer is when you have, like, let's say you have an amount on another credit card, and then another credit card company is offering you free balance transfer. And usually it's like no interest rate for like X amount, like for at least 2 years. I would go ahead and use my debt from the other credit card that, let's say, like with the highest interest, like let's say I had a credit card at 22%, and then so I'll get my $2,000 debt in that 22% account, and then put it into the account or the bank that's offering me the transfer for 0% interest of 2 years. So that saves you, instead of just paying the interest every month, you're able to save and just pay that balance. So when I did that to one of my accounts, I actually used Citibank. They have really good balance transfers. I was able to save like at least around $2,000 to $3,000 in just the interest rate alone. So I was able to pay off that debt faster. And so why do we utilize these balance transfers? It opens a door for more funding. It funds your business. It could get you new equipment or studio or traveling expenses. And so when I was talking about good debt versus bad debt, paying off bad debt is a better credit score for you guys. And so for the credit score, like I said, your credit is as good as gold. Credit worthiness allows you to have more financial flexibility. And you get the cheapest rates when you're trying to buy a house, or when you're trying to get that business loan. And so that's why I said it's really important to kind of know where you're standing in your credit score, and like you should utilize those tools such as Credit Karma. And then let's see. I'm trying to go next. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and just talk about having the proper like foundational tools of being a business owner. So one, we should always have Okay, okay, let me go ahead and answer this question. So how do you do balance transfers with students loans? Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and just answer these questions at the end if you guys don't mind, just so I can just get through this really quick. Is that okay with you guys? Okay, thank you. Okay, so you're gonna always want to have liability insurance. The next one is dental insurance, disability insurance, and then the two foundational pieces is to have, where is it? Health insurance and income protection with living benefits, and these two are actually equally important. Number one being an entrepreneur, business owner, health insurance is so important because we need to insure ourselves, because our biggest asset is ourselves. We're the ones working for ourselves. We don't work for some big corporation that is going to pay for our health coverage when the time comes and when we need it, right? And so the next one is income protection with living benefits. And so this right here is, like I said, is equally important as health insurance. And this is something that people often overlook, right? And it's, let me go back to my slide, sorry. Okay, so income protection with living benefits, it's basically like a life insurance policy. So back in the day, this is something that we specialize in. Back in the day, life insurance is known as to something that you could use when you die, right? And that shouldn't be called life insurance. That should be called death insurance. But now with like all things, like everything evolving, the life insurance industry has changed and has evolved in so many ways that people aren't aware of, and that can actually benefit us. And so it comes with income protection with living benefits. And so one of our insurance policies, are one of the major carriers that we have that we're partnered up with. When you guys have life insurance policies, you guys want to make sure that your living benefits are included. And most companies, I don't know if most companies have all four, but if you want to look over your policy or whatever you guys have, what type of coverage, make sure you do have all four, just because that is available out there. So terminal illness, it accelerates your death benefit if the doctor diagnoses you with a terminal illness with 24 months or less to live. A lot of policies out there are 12 months or less to live, so make sure to keep an eye out for that one. Chronic illness, if you can't perform 2 out of the 6 activities of the daily living, so that's eating, bathing, getting dressed, toileting, transferring, and continence. And then critical illness, which is so important, heart attack, cancer, stroke, ALS, blindness, and major organ transplant. And, you know, being Filipinos and like loving all the sweets and all the fatty foods, heart attack, cancer, and stroke, unfortunately, is just so common in our culture, in our families. And then critical injury, it's coma, paralysis, severe burns, and traumatic brain injury. And so as solo entrepreneurs, you know, we're driving all the time to see clients. You get in a car accident and then you get a traumatic brain injury, you're covered for that. So these are super important. And just a quick like side story is my mom is actually one of our clients, and she, like I said, she works in the medical field. And when I showed her this, she saw the importance of this. And so we did a free policy review. That's something that we do at the company, and I showed it to her. And so she got this policy that had the living benefits, and she was actually at LAX giving the flight attendant her boarding pass. And when she went to go ahead and give the boarding pass to the flight attendant, her boarding pass fell out of her left hand. And when she went to pick it up, she realized she couldn't feel like her body anymore. She had no motion. And so she kind of like stepped back, and she was like, "I'm having a stroke, call 911." So luckily she was able to recognize that. And a lot of doctors say, you know, this is her second life. She was lucky that she wasn't on that plane, because she would have passed, and something like, you know, the outcome would have been a lot worse. So in those, when she they took her to the emergency room. They took her to the hospital. They did diagnose with her with a stroke. And, you know, for 3 months, she couldn't bathe on her own. She was in rehab. She couldn't walk on her own. And so when those things happen, like, the mortgage, our bills, they don't stop flying at us, you know, like that doesn't stop. And you think and pause and you're like, where does the money come from to pay for this when I'm out of a job, you know? And when I ask people, like, what is your biggest asset? A lot of these people say, my biggest asset is my spouse, my kids, my house. But what you don't realize is that your biggest asset is actually yourself and your ability to earn your own income. So that's just something to think about. So you definitely have to insure yourself. And then, yeah, so in those 3 months, like my mom was in like a weird transition, and like her disability didn't cover her enough. And luckily this policy like was able to give her a $30,000 check that she didn't have to pay back just because she was insured. So that's just like a small snippet of that. If you guys want to learn more about that, you guys can go ahead and message me, and we could do like a one-on-one consultation. And then, so the next one is investing. So education, as your career progresses, you want to invest in assets that you understand. And like I said, we provide financial workshops to further, sorry about that, to further your knowledge. And, you know, you have to be in control of your investments and invest in things that you like and that you're comfortable with. And like what we tell everyone is you just don't want to hand them off to a financial advisor and expect them to do the work for you. You want to make sure you understand what the process is and like what you're gaining, what you're losing. And what we tell our clients is we love to put you guys in the driver's seat, and we are so transparent with everyone that we talk to. We don't want you guys losing money. And so the one thing that we specialize in also is index financial products. So what an index financial product is it provides the upside potential of the market with a downside protection. And I'll go ahead and have a slide about that later. And guaranteeing that you don't lose value due to a market correction or a market crash, something that we're kind of experiencing now in the United States. And then another thing that our team talks about is real estate. If you guys are interested in that, it provides substantial tax benefits and write-offs, especially as business owners. We have been able to provide our clients with a cash flow and the rate of return from 8 to 12%. And then they're all properties they're turnkey properties, meaning they've already been remodeled, and all you have to do is put in that down payment and purchase that home. And we have property managers and in-house financing. Okay. So quick question. So with income protection and living benefits, this acts as a retirement. Okay, yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and answer this question just because it kind of goes into detail. So Paula Olivar asked, with income protection with living benefits, this acts as a retirement plan and also cash value that you can use, correct? And yeah, so Paula, you are right. This does provide income protection with the living benefits, and you can use it as a retirement plan, and it does build cash value, so it would be tax-free. Okay, and so let me go ahead and get out of this box. So real quick, we're gonna go ahead and have 2 accounts here. Let me go ahead. Sorry about that. Okay, so we're going to have 2 accounts. We're going to have account A and account B. So account A is actually based on the S&P 500, which is Standard & Poor's, the top 500 companies. And then account B is going to be in place in indexing, which is one of the strategies that I did talk about. So let's go ahead and look at the numbers. And then real quick, account A is also something like you're investing your 401k in. So I don't know if a lot of us out there have a 401k. It's invested in the stock market. So if you recently looked at your 401k, you've definitely seen a dip in the past couple of weeks, unfortunately. So I'll go ahead and explain what the difference is between account A and account B. So we're going to have 2 accounts. Both accounts are going to have $100,000 each, right? So account A, like I said, is invested in something like your 401k or the stock market. Account B, it's an indexing vehicle. So if you look at in 1999, your money was at 18%. And then for the indexing account for account B, your money is always going to be at a cap of 12% and a floor of 0, meaning that whatever happens in the stock market, you won't lose money. So if you look at the next 3 years versus account A versus account B, they lost a significant amount of money, whereas in 2000 through 2002 in account B, their money stayed the same at $112,000. And then 2008 being the most important year for here in the stock market was in 2008, a lot of people that were retiring, they lost negative 37%. Whereas to our account, you lost nothing. Your money was safe and it stayed the same amount that you had the previous year, right? So in account A, at the end of 2018, your money ended at $192,000, where account B your money ended at a little over $353,000. So if I were to ask you guys, which account would you rather have, or which would you rather invest in? Would it be account A or account B? Yeah. So can you just imagine retiring today or in 2008 and the market and you lost that money? Like you don't have time on your side where you can say that I can just write it out and then the stock market will eventually increase. You know, a lot of people retiring day are facing that today. And it's just unfortunate that all their savings gets slashed into cut in half. And right now, if you look, the market is already down 28%. And so especially, you know, with the coronavirus going on, we don't know how much more that's going to tank. So like if you guys have something that you want to put it safe in a safe vehicle, you would probably want to put it in an indexing account. So there are 3 golden rules that we follow here is, you know, like I talked about, is minimize expenses. Number 2 is you always want to maximize your income. And then number 3, invest what you save. Okay, so quick question. Are these index accounts with your company the same as index target funds? Give me 1 second, let me go ahead and get water. So these index accounts of their company, in an index target fund, you can still lose money. So in an index, what we call it is the index universal life, you don't lose money. So that's kind of the difference of what those two are. So hopefully that answers your question. We can go more into detail about that later. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to talk about is the tax strategy. So tax strategy and tax benefits are business owner's secret weapon. So there's actually a difference between a tax preparer and a tax strategist, and they're not created equal. A tax preparer is someone that just prepares your taxes, crunches the number, your numbers, and a tax strategist actually looks at what you have, how you can maximize your return, and how it benefits you, right? And so we can't change tax laws. All we can do is work with it and make sure that we are getting the most out of our income. So as a business owner, you definitely want to ask yourself, are you filing correctly? Are you getting the most out of your business deductions, expenses, and depreciation? And are you happy with how much taxes you're paying, you know? And so we have a team of CPAs here that specialize in helping business owners customize a tax strategy that makes their business as efficient as possible, you know? So let me go on to the next one. So another thing that I want to briefly talk about is super important as well. Is called entity formation. So it's transitioning from a sole proprietor to an incorporation, right? So new tax laws make it difficult for businesses to maintain 1099 employees. And so why do you want to incorporate from an S Corp to a C Corp or to an LLC? You receive so much more tax benefits. You have protections of assets and liability and professionalism and legitimacy. Here at GoldLine, for our company, we're an S Corp. And so the Kennedy family, they will say, own nothing but control everything, right? And so let's say when you guys, when we're successful, people are going to come after us. People are going to want to sue us. They're going to want to come after our business, come after our money. So you want to make sure your money is protected. And so when they sue you, and when you're in incorporation, all of your assets and your money is in the incorporation. So when they sue you, you're like, well, I have nothing. I have no assets. All of my assets are in my company. So when they do try to sue you, they won't be able to take anything, right? And then let's go to the next slide. Sorry, my computer is being stuck. Okay, so the U.S. household income, most Americans are actually working to survive and not to thrive. And most households will generate around $2 million of a lifetime income. But however, the average 65-year-old in America only has between $60,000 to $170,000 in assets. So we definitely want to be in a better category when we retire. And so I just want to real quick talk about generational wealth and leaving your legacy. So generational wealth is wealth that is passed down from one generation to another. And that is through the accumulations of our assets for the future to provide financial security. So there's some sayings, you know, like Americans like to spend tomorrow's money. So basically we already, we're spending money that we don't have. And so this is a statistic from 2020 from recently, and consumer debt said that credit card debt is $1.4 trillion already. And so, and then, oops, I'll go back. And like for Chinese people, they like to save, and that's why they're so wealthy. Native Americans, they plan for 7 generations to come. So you want to ask ourselves, like, where do we want to be and where do our families want to be when we leave that legacy behind? And, you know, we're so blessed to be part of the Entrepinay group, and like we're enriching each other's lives through positive impact and a positive community. And we're just empowering Filipino women to be more independent and just to keep our culture alive and so much more. So as a first generation Filipino American here, like I feel like it's our turn to take care of the generations that will come after us. And so I'm gonna go ahead and do a question and answer portion right now. So if you guys want to go ahead and ask more questions, I know I missed a question earlier. So
Giselle, did you want folks to be able to ask their questions directly? Meaning I would unmute everyone, or would you like them to continue to ask in the chat box?
They can go ahead. You can go ahead and unmute them if you'd like.
Okay, so everyone, I'm just going to change your settings so you'll be able to unmute yourselves.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and answer a question from, where was it? Let me go ahead and scroll up. Pat Lindsay, so she said, can you do a balance transfer with student loans? Unfortunately, you can't do a balance transfer with student loans. This is more for credit card debt. I mean, I wish we could, but yeah, that's something that we can't do. But we do offer like programs at our office that can do student loan consolidation if that would help. And there's also debt elimination courses that we offer. You're welcome.
Just a quick note on student loans, just because I know this is a huge thing for a lot of people. Right now, obviously the interest is being deferred, and I believe 2 payments or 60 days, there's a 60-day suspension, but definitely check with your servicer. The other thing is, if you are refinancing your student loans and you're in a nonprofit industry or in public service, you may disqualify yourself from the income-based repayment. So income-based repayment is only available through the federal loans, and you don't want to refinance them, but you can apply for income-based. I'm happy to answer questions related to student loans because this is a hot topic for me too.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that. Yeah. Does anyone else have any other questions about anything I reviewed? I know it was a lot of information. Kind of went fast. I'm like, I have 30 minutes left.
Well, this is great. I mean, this is a conversation I really want to continue to have in our community. And you really, you know, hit the nail on the head here with not just generational wealth, but our mindset and what we in the community, you know, really strive for. So I appreciate you speaking to that very directly. Here is a question from, wait, did we answer this one?
Yeah, so for Roseanne, she said, can my existing yes. Oh, I am muted now. Oops. How did I unmute? Am I muted? Can you guys hear me?
Hi, Giselle. It's Paula Oliver again. Just asking question regarding the 401k. How do we transfer the 401k to per se life insurance to put in the index strategy instead of the, you know, the 401k traditional?
Yeah, okay, so that's a great question. And also Roseanne, she also asked that question. So when you guys have an existing 401k, you actually cannot move it into an index fund. What we can do is do a forced distribution and like a transfer. So what we're gonna do is if you are interested in doing something like that, we can do like a policy review and see what other products that we can put it in so your money is protected if there is a stock market crash. So I'll go ahead and give you my information. I'll provide that slide at the end, and then you guys can go ahead and message me on the side, just because I don't want to like expose all of your information here to everybody. But yeah. I
Thank you
hopefully.
so much. Just because there's a lot of people, especially at my work, that they did have 401k and their money are crashing and they're like really worried about it. So
Yeah, that's super
just
unfortunate.
good to note that you're showing us this. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And then for people there that, like I said, we're all entrepreneurs. And if you guys don't have a 401k place to put it in, the IUL actually acts like a 401k, a retirement fund as well. So we can start off like, putting something like $150 a month or whatever fits in your budget. Everything is actually customized to you guys. We do something in our one-to-one meeting or conference call or webinar. I can do like a quick offering you guys a free consultation for about 20 minutes, and then we could look at what you guys have in your finances and look at that and to see if we can start just putting money away for your retirement. Camille asked, how about IRAs? Okay, so with IRAs, they're a little different. You can actually roll that over into an index universal vehicle. It's going to be an index annuity. So that way, the IRA is, like I said, is being moved from one vehicle to another, and your money will be protected still. And then you'll lose at a floor of 0 and then a cap of whatever cap that the insurance company has provided for that year. And another thing that I want to mention is that you can roll over old 401ks from previous employers into this index fund. So that's something that you guys can do too.
Will there be any taxation or anything if we roll that over?
So everything is going to be, there is no taxation. Everything is tax-free. Any other questions that you guys want me to answer?
How much cash value can you take out per se if you already have that money that you grow on your IUL in like within 10 years?
That actually depends on the policy. So every individual is different. So you are, for example, we have some clients that are putting $100 a month that are just starting off, with a job, or we have some doctors and nurses that are putting $300 to $500 a month. So depending on the policy and how it's built, you can see the cash value, and whatever cash value has been built, you can access that. And actually 90% of your cash value can actually be taken out. So hopefully that answers your question. Another one is, what are some money mindsets you see in Filipino community that is not helpful, and what can we do to unlearn from those, and what is your experience? So in our Filipino community, a lot of people just kind of like, I don't want to talk down about the Filipino. It's kind of like the crab mentality. And I know in the past couple of days, that's something that we've talked about, right? And it's just so hard for us to be happy for others that are successful. And that's something that I've experienced as well. Like, when I was first in finance, like I was looked down upon by my own family members, like, oh, why aren't you in the medical field? Your family did this for you. And I'm just like, well, it's not my passion. And so I think that's why, like, to unlearn from that and to get out of that mindset, we need, like, that's why it's so important to have communities like this, like Entrepinay, just to be supporting us. And, like, I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one here that kind of went through the same thing where, like, our family is like, hey, why aren't you in the medical field? Why aren't you a nurse? And kind of just looks at you. And now that, like, I'm successful in this field, my mom's actually like, for the first time, I think I heard her say, like, a couple of years ago, I'm so proud of you. And, like, that was just super touching for me, because she never really understood what it was like to not be in the medical field. So, like, yeah, so we just should continue to just provide that positive energy and that positive reinforcements for these Filipino communities. Yeah, so is GoldLine a membership program? So GoldLine is actually not a membership program. We do, like I mentioned before, we could do like a free consultation, like 15 to 20 minutes consultation, just to see where you're at with your finances. I'm offering that to you guys. I usually don't offer like a free consultation. And then if you guys do have existing policies, that's always free. For our company and for our agents, we always do a free policy review, just to make sure we're not taking you out a financial vehicle that's already beneficial and putting you guys in something worse. We always want to provide a more value for you guys, and that's something that we want to do, and just put you guys in a worse position that you already started. So there are different tiers for GoldLine. So when we do that consultation, we'll do something called a a snapshot. And it's kind of like a snapshot, like I said, about your finances, where you are in your business. And then we can go from there, and we can talk about prices from there, from that consultation.
Sorry, I keep accidentally muting you when I'm trying to unmute myself.
Oh, it's okay.
I wanted to go back to that other question about the mindset and what we're doing that's not helpful, and kind of tie it back to personal finances.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier, you had a slide on Americans borrowing, or I think something about managing money based on the future, having a lot of debt. And then there was this one, yes,
Yeah,
and the other communities. Would you say that there's one that might apply to the Filipino community in terms of how we manage money? Like, I know for me, I've really experienced, and I'm undoing a lot around poverty mindset, and this feeling of not just hoarding physical things, but not feeling like I can spend on quality, or I always have to bargain. I always have to save every penny on products. But then also seeing a lot in our community who are, flashy with certain brands of purses. Like it's kind of a weird dichotomy.
Yeah, especially with Filipinas, like they love, the Filipino nurses like love their Louis Vuittons. Yeah. So a lot of us have that poverty scarcity mindset where it's there's not enough out there, and so we kind of just want to what's that called? Where am I trying to go here? Trying to keep everything to ourselves instead of sharing it with people. And so what we need to have is to have that abundance mindset where there is enough out there for me, and what can I do to share with other people, and what I can do to share this information with other people. So it's like a lot of some of our clients that we run into are like, oh, is this exclusive? Is this just for us? And I'm just like, well, no, like a lot of what we do is a lot of educational finance, and we just want to be able to just share that information out there, just so people aren't feeling like they're behind, and like wherever you guys are in your financial journey, like we don't want you to think it's too late to start. It's never too late to start. I would rather have you start now than not start at all, or like 5 years down the road you're like, oh, I wish I started 5 years ago, when sometimes it might be too late because you're too old already and you don't have enough time, and time isn't on your side. So yeah. And then one thing that that I wanted to say, and leaving the generational wealth, is when you guys have these financial vehicles, you can also like leave something behind, like a piece of it, a part of like your estate or your beneficiary. It could be something like Entrepinay, so as Filipina entrepreneurs, we can continue to leave that pathway for the generations to come. And like a lot of millionaires out there, they leave a part of their wealth to certain companies or foundations. So why not be a foundation that could be Entrepinay?
I'm going to second that.
Yeah. Yeah, we want to keep this going, and like we've started something so unique, and it's just so empowering.
Thank you so much for that, Giselle.
Yeah.
Another question around having these conversations. Obviously, this is specific to the Filipino community, but also for women. What are things that you're seeing as either trends in maybe the clients that you're working with who are women? What are some of the mindset things? I know we tend to want to show up to meetings already prepared, already knowing everything.
Yeah.
We don't like to, think that we don't know. So
Yeah.
what do you observe?
Well, one thing that especially with the younger clients, it's a lot harder to change their mindset, just because, like I said, like growing up in our families, they don't talk about managing our money. And like money is just such a tough subject to talk about, or where you are. And so in the first couple of minutes, they're kind of like standoffish and they don't want to talk about their money. They don't want to talk about their debt. But when they realize that you're only trying to provide value for them and trying to help them, that you're not here to come after them, that you're actually here like genuinely trying to help them get from point A to point B where they are in their finances, they start to open up. And one thing is like when it comes down to budgeting, as for women, like we have a lot more expenses, than men. And so it's like when I look at their budget and say like, hey, like, where do you need to take out certain expenses? It's like, oh my God, instead of getting my nails done every 2 weeks, it's like, why don't you go for every 3 weeks? Or, but that's just something that's just kind of funny that's come up, is like, oh, like, how can I not spend on getting my nails or hair done? And so, and some, like, you'll run into some people that are not open. And for me, as a financial professional, I'm like, I've done my part. I've provided you information already, and it's up to you as a client or as a person that comes to these type of events to take the wheel and basically, go on that path. And we're providing you the tools already, so might as well utilize them. And so a lot of people also, like, especially like in the medical field, they only believe what their coworkers tell them. Like, oh, my coworker said this, that I shouldn't invest in that. But that's just kind of like, I don't know, like I said, it's like the crab mentality, where it's like, oh, I don't want to share my secrets with you. I don't want to help you. But also, you also have to realize and know that your coworkers aren't financial professionals. They don't know what they're talking about. Whatever that they're passing on, that information that they're passing on to you, could be something that they've heard from someone else that isn't a financial professional. So they could be passing on the wrong information to you. And so Mark Twain once said that when you find yourself doing what everyone else is doing, pause, reflect, and do the opposite.
Ooh, that's good. That's really interesting what you said about, what our colleagues or coworkers say. And I know this is also very true in our community. That's one good thing, is we have a lot of word of mouth, but sometimes we have to check, what the source is of that information and the credibility of where that comes from. Mm-hmm. Back to what you said about budgets for women. Mm-hmm. Statistically, we're seeing a gap in pay. So if we are employed, or if we are, as we're building businesses, maybe we're still working on a side hustle and we're employed. And the reality is we are still making 70 cents to every dollar that men are making. And a lot of women are not the ones making big decisions around investments and saving and growing our money, but we are making a lot of the decisions around what we buy. So what happens to women who are not taking the driver's seat? What have you seen with women who wait until they're 60, 70 and have not taken control or taken responsibility for their money?
Yeah, so I've actually seen that a lot, where I've seen clients that are in their 60s and they ask me like, oh, like, how come this wasn't available or this wasn't taught to me back in the day? And I'm like, maybe someone did teach it to you, but you just weren't open-minded. I have a client who's actually 82 years old and she's still working right now. And so it's just hard for me to see that. And I think like in our generation, like being like the millennial generation, like it's just so important to start planning early, whereas to planning later down the road. A lot of us here don't want to be 82 years old, and still working and providing for our families. Like that's just so hard on ourselves and our money, and like, be able to retire comfortably. And so everything is about proper prevention, and poor performance and where you are in your life. And what I tell a lot of people that don't want to continue with this or take advantage of the information that we do provide is I tell them, like, do your own research. That's like the one thing, like the one biggest advice that I give a lot of our clients is, if you don't believe me, do your own research. There's going to be a lot of things out there that are saying something else, but just make sure the resources that you have are, just be mindful of them. It's just so important. Like, you don't want to be getting the wrong information from the wrong resources. Like I said, like your coworkers or someone that's against like proper financial planning. And it's always about preparing the right way. I have a question here. Let's see. Hi, Giselle, I'm from Canada, self-employed now. So one of the questions is, who do I sit down and listen to for advice for my finances? Is it going to be an insurance broker or a bank financial advisor, or do I need to define what my goals are first financially? Okay, so that's a really great question. That's something that we get a lot, because there is a huge difference between a insurance broker and a financial advisor. So first, like, what I would like to say is definitely define what your goals are first financially, so you know where to go. But when you go to a bank financial advisor, they're probably going to advise you something to do, like something in the stock market. That's what I actually see a lot with some of our clients, is these bank financial advisors will put it like half of their money in a safe vehicle and then half of it in the stock market. And whereas it doesn't really benefit you if the stock market is crashing. And then if for an insurance broker, there are different financial vehicles that you can put in, but that's something that we can expand on. So if you want to message me directly, I can help you with that. We'll analyze what matters to you, and we kind of go like step-by-step process. And like I said, I'm offering like a free 20-minute like webinar consultation for all of the entrepreneurs here today. And just for sitting in, like I said, I just really want to provide value to you guys, and everything that I've learned these like the years that I've been in business, just because it was when I was starting out, it was so hard to find these key informations. And a lot of this information isn't just in one place. Like, you have to kind of like pick and choose where these resources are coming from. But we have a lot of experience in our company. We have over like 80 years of experience, combined with a lot of our co-founders.
Giselle, going back to sharing financial education to people, I believe we need more women to be an educator, like educator advisor like you. You know, I'm asking how to be like in the same business like what you're doing right now.
Yeah, so definitely. So back in the day, when you look up a financial advisor, they're a white male, 65-year-old guy, like in a suit. And then now, like, the financial world has been shifting. Definitely, it's for being Filipino American, it was a little harder, just because people like look at me and like, oh, you look young, you don't know what you're talking about. But I'm like, I do know what I'm talking about. I am licensed. Thank you very much. But to be a financial advisor, there are classes that you do have to take. I can go ahead and provide that for you guys. We do have great relationships with the examiner, and so like you have to complete like 52 hours. And then after those 52 hours, you do have to get tested by the state. And then from there, we can go ahead and figure out what you want to do as a financial planner. And, here at GoldLine, and thank you for asking that, we're always looking for new talent. So like, this could be for you. It could not be for the next person, but there's just so much information that we would love to share with you. And like another thing that we look for is just having that heart of service for a lot of our agents, and just being able to help your community financially. But if you guys know anyone that's interested, let me know, and I could I can go ahead and message them. So thank you for that. Okay, I have another question. Okay, so what are some books and podcasts regarding personal finance, if any? So there's one. Let me get my phone. I have like my podcast written down. Okay, let me go ahead and get my podcast list.
I would recommend, one of my favorites is J Money. It's called Budgets Are Sexy. While you're looking at yours, I just wanted to.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that one. I should go ahead and look at that one. One of the books I'm pretty sure that you guys have heard is Rich Dad Poor Dad. They have great financial concepts over there, and it's just such an eye opener versus like the rich mentality versus the poor mentality by Robert Kiyosaki. A great podcast that also is very entrepreneurial, not just about finance, is Brene Brown. If you guys have heard of her, she has a podcast and she also has a Netflix special. And then I have another one. I'm trying to find it. So another one, if you guys heard of Entre Leadership? That's another one. Like, they also talk about finance, but also being an entrepreneur. So that one's really good. Yeah. And so those are like my top 3 right now. I like to share these books with you, Your Money for Your Path and the Simple Path to Wealth. Okay, yeah, that's a good book. Your Money or Your Life and the Simple Path to Wealth. I haven't read those books, but I'll go ahead and write that down. And thank you guys for recommending me those books. Another one that you guys might want to read or like listen to as an audible is Shoe Dog. I know it's not really finance related, but it's kind of, if you guys obviously know what the brand Nike is, it kind of just shows where he started and to where he is now, and all the hardships that he's gone through, and that was super inspirational as me too. And like the financial hardships that he had to go through, getting to where Nike is now. And I think like after reading that book, I had more respect for Nike, and not just as excuse me, not just Nike as the brand, but the person who built Nike, which is Phil Knight. So that's a really great one. Okay, do you guys have any more questions?
This is great, Giselle. Did you want to share all your contact info so that people know how to get a hold of you?
Yeah, thank you. I didn't realize it was almost 2, sorry. Okay, so so wherever you guys are in your financial journey, we're here to help you guys. We're not here to judge. We're just here to help you. You guys can go ahead and message me personally, Giselle at GoldLine-Financial.com. So that's my email address. Let me go to the next slide. Excuse me. Why is this freezing on me? Okay, I don't know what's going on with my computer. Okay, so you go ahead and follow us on Instagram at GoldLine Financial. And if you guys want to follow me at my personal one, it's at Giselle Victorio. And then for Facebook, it's facebook.com/GoldLine Financial. And then for our website is goldline-financial.com. We were kind of inactive for a little bit just because we're going through a rebrand right now. And we'll have like an email list that you guys can just put in your email here, and I'll go ahead and subscribe you guys to our email list. And I send like emails. I'm going to start sending emails once a week about like financial tips or like things that are going on around around our economy to help you guys. And then like we usually have financial workshops or kind of now like moving to webinars just because of what's going on. So you guys can keep an eye out for that. And so in those webinars or financial workshops, I'll go more into detail everything that I talked about, just because like I said, I kind of just like vomited information to you guys. I know it was a lot, and I know it's a lot to grasp. And then I did create something for you guys, kind of just like, I can go ahead and send this as a PDF. I probably should have pulled it up on the screen, but I printed it out. So it's kind of like a worksheet where it's like, take financial control, just so you guys can, determine where you stand. I don't know if you can see that, but it's kind of like to your total monthly income. It's kind of like a small formula. Your total monthly expenses equals your discretionary income. And so what is a discretionary income? It means how much money you have left over to save or invest at the end of the month. And so like I said, you can find financial vehicles that best fit what your needs are. And then I kind of like provided tips and tools of like little things that I talked about, and then free financial resources that you guys can really utilize to get, like I said, Credit Karma is a really good one. Another good one is annualcreditreport.com. You can get a copy of your credit report there as well. myfico.com, you get your FICO credit score. There's a financial calculator that I like to use. It's called www.financialcalculator.com. So it can show you like calculate what your auto loans are, your mortgage, student loans, investments, and all of that. So it's just a little tool that I made for you guys, but I can go ahead and email that to you guys as well, or I can email it to you, Anna Marie, and then you can email it.
Yeah, I can actually share that with everyone. So anyone who registered for the Eventbrite will actually get a link to our
Okay.
dedicated portal with all of these different resources, including all the videos. So if you want to send that to me in a PDF format, I'll make sure to include it for your module. So anyone who visited or who joined us for this module today will actually have a chance to go into the video and then see any associated worksheets or resources. So that's a good place for us to also continue the conversation. So be on the lookout for that. I do want to just thank you again so much for this very important topic that we need to continue to talk about. It's obviously very important for entrepreneurship and for our community. And we hope that you'll consider holding another one of these in the future. And thank you, Giselle. And at this time, I'd like to now actually stop the live stream.